A very good evening and thanks for clicking on to the Friday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Before we get into the video, there will be a charity live stream on Gav's weather videos between 6 PM and 9 PM tomorrow evening. So that, of course, is Saturday evening and it is on behalf of his late mum who passed away last year. And he's going to be raising money, and he's already made, I believe, £750 for the Rainbows charity. It's an event that will be raising money for the Rainbows hospice, I believe it is, for young people who are terminally ill and need special care. I believe 80% of the funding for this is actually through charity, and only 20% is government funded. So Gavin is doing a terrific job at raising money for this great cause that I believe his mum really was very fond of children, loved children, and that is the reason why he's doing that. So I will leave a link in the description below today's video for his channel, but also for the Just Giving page. So I do encourage you, if you are able to do so, do give some money towards that great charity, that great cause. If you're in a position, of course, to do that. It's, of course, very difficult times for many people. But just wanted to encourage you, point that out, that that will be on Gav's weather vids tomorrow evening, 6 PM. So if you are able to make it, do check in with Gavin tomorrow night. I think he's going to, well, I know he's going to have a few guests. So, yeah, check that out. But we are, of course, rapidly approaching the end of May. This is the 2-meter temperature anomalies for the month so far. So a cool continent, warmer than average, slightly warmer than average UK and Ireland, as well as southwestern portions of the continent also. Some interesting things going on at the moment. Of course, it is the eve of the bank holiday weekend, of course. Looks as if we are going to be largely high and dry. Temperatures are going to be hovering around similar values to what we've seen, but we are going to see a little bit of a decrease in temperature as we progress into the latter half of the weekend and into early next week. We have got a little bit of cooler air coming around the top of that high, a squeeze, meaning we're going to increase the winds slightly as well across the far north of the UK. We've got an area of low pressure to the north, high pressure centre to the west. And between that low to the north and high to the west, we are going to usher in and pour a little bit of colder air at 850 overhead. So that is going to trim the surface temperatures back. Relatively, it's going to be quite a fresh feeling, especially across northern areas in the Monday. Also, with high pressure becoming a little bit firmer across the northern half of the British Isles in the early next week, we are also going to see some fairly cool, brisk winds coming in from the North Sea across southern areas of the UK. So while temperatures rise into the low 20s, London, southeast England, southern England, through the next few days, we are actually going to see the temperature stuck at 16, 17 Celsius by the time we reach the early portion of next week, thanks to the position of that high and winds coming around the underside of that system is going to bring a drop in temperature. So like I say, this is the temperatures for the month, normally anyway, for the month of May for Europe. The NAO and AO is pretty impressively dipping into negative territory here. This is the Arctic Oscillation, firmly positive as you can see at the moment, but we are going into negative. And the North Atlantic Oscillation is going into negative after being strongly positive also. If we look at the ECMWF, this is the weeklies of weatherbell.com, and this is the upcoming 7-day period. Very difficult to see, I do understand that, so I apologise for that. But you notice here the strong positive underneath the strong negative over the eastern portion of the North Atlantic here. So the centre of these two systems we've got just to the west of the British Isles, hence why we're seeing temperatures relatively subdued. You know, the UK maximum for the year so far is still just over 23 Celsius. Nothing really to write home about, considering recent years we've had temperatures as warm as 29 Celsius. So we are, fairly subdued for the time of the year. There is some indications that if we can get that high to become a little bit more firmly established, centered over the UK, particularly so the northern half of the UK, we may see that warmth building within that weather system, kind of homegrown warming, if you will, as we step into the first week or so of June. But there is also indications that we may have a hard time trying to really truly warm up. But that negative is really keeping things very unsettled across southwestern Europe. Flash floods, an ongoing threat across many parts of Iberia, of course, especially over higher ground. And really through the Mediterranean basin, it is still a very unsettled picture. You know, Malta just a couple of days ago reached the first 25 Celsius of the year. That's amazing considering it's in the central Mediterranean basin. Temperatures in Malta not getting to 25 Celsius till a couple of days ago. So just shows you actually how the weather can really throw curveballs and surprises. But like I said, this is off the ECM weeklies. This is the upcoming 7-day 500 millibar anomaly, and you can see here the center of that high is just to the west of the UK and Ireland. So you know, it's not a particularly warm situation with the position of this high. As we continue to play through it, remember what I showed you at the start, the NAO and the AO going negative. Now the ECMWF weeklies has that high starting to retrograde up towards Greenland, and then of course we've got this negative extending from the southern United States to the southern half of Europe here underneath, with the blocking core centered over the North Atlantic and Greenland. What does this correlate to? It actually means that we have more of a northwesterly airflow as we press through the period, you know, June 3rd through June 10th. And that is not an overly warm scenario for the British Isles. So it's very interesting actually when you look at all this, how the pattern is evolving, how we're stepping out of spring and into the summer season of 2023. This is a look at the Europe version, negative over Iberia, so temperatures subdued. In the sunshine, of course, it's going to be reasonably hot at this time of the year down there, but certainly that breeds showers and thunderstorms and unsettled conditions. Look at that here, the center of that high now started to drift up towards the northwest, and this, folks, is not a particularly warm scenario overall. Let's have a look at the GFS ensembles here, because it's kind of showing some interesting stuff as well. So the upcoming 5-day period, you can see here the positive centered to the west of the UK, so always got that northwesterly airflow. As we continue to play through, now what happens is the center of that high tries to kind of build more towards the northern half of the British Isles, so Scotland. Cool nights, warm days would be the overall scenario with that. And like the ECMWF, you see the center of that high drifting off to the northwest, thanks to this here, the negative NAO scenario here. So certainly that would not be a particularly warm situation to start the month of June, of course, and summer 2023 either. If we look at the temperatures here, the 2-meter temperature anomalies, you can see here for the upcoming 5-day period. Like I said, the center of the high, we'll look at the details in just a second, drifts more over towards the center of Scotland. Therefore, the winds coming around clockwise around that area of high pressure means that we're going to be pulling our air in off the North Sea across the bulk of southern England and even possibly South Wales as well. Of course, as those winds cross over the landmass, it does start to warm up, so I would expect to see slightly warmer temperatures into Somerset, Devon, Cornwall, south central England, but certainly over towards Essex, Kent, up towards Suffolk and Norfolk, we would have some fairly chilly winds indeed coming in off the North Sea, warmer than average across the northern half of the UK, as you can see here, closer to the centre of the high. But like I said, with clear skies and light winds, dry air in place, we can see some fairly chilly nights as well as warm days, big diurnal fluctuations at that. And if we play through the loop here, you can see that Scotland and the western side of the UK starts to warm up in a fairly decent way. But look at this here. As we progress towards the middle portion of the month, it looks as if we are seeing below average temperatures of the GFS ensemble here. So quite an interesting start to summer, that's for sure. And no great shakes in terms of temperature, really. Looking at the weathercharts.com, this is the overview chart of the GFS. You can see here that as we play through the upcoming weekend, like I've said to you, we do see that area of low pressure just to the northeast of Iceland, high pressure centered over the North Atlantic. We've got that northwesterly flow, and as you can see here, off the 850 temperatures, that air is colder coming in between those two systems. So we trim back the temperature, a notable change in temperature actually to start the week, but by the time we reach the middle and second half of the week, we could see a significant warm up, decrease in temperatures over the south. So we're flipping things completely on its head, warming up over the southern UK over the next few days, cooling things down across the north, and then we reverse that, warming up across the north, cooling down across the south with the position of that high pressure system. So you can see here as we play it through the loop, not a particularly warm air mass indeed, warmer across the Mediterranean as you would expect. And then as that area of high pressure becomes a little bit more established through the course of the week, you notice the 850s warming up on the eastern flank of the high. That is the center of that high, and we'll start to warm the column up just simply by the strong incoming solar radiation at this time of the year. The column starts to warm up in response to the time of the year and the weather situation at the time. Looking back at the overview chart here, you can see the scenario takes place. High pressure centered over Scotland, so we get that kind of swing back and forth. Unless there's cloud cover, we may hold on to warmth by night. But you notice here that we start to see winds coming in on the underside of that high, so cooler, fresher conditions across the southern half of the British Isles. Look at the mess across the southern half of Europe. So yeah, an interesting situation. Dry is going to be the rule as we step into the month of June. And then it's as we progress towards the end of week one, you notice here that the high may start to kind of ease off slightly, and we may increase the threat of shower activity as we progress towards the end of week one of June. So lots going on. Keep it right here on YouTube. Do check out MarkVoganWeather.com. Check out the summer forecast. Lots of information, lots of stuff for you to check out as well. There's been a lot of work put into that. Looks as if June's working out not too bad in terms of the overall ideas that I have with regards to that. Do check out Gav's weather vids for the charity event tomorrow evening. Also check out Richie on tour as well if you're interested in real estate, fast cars, jets. Lots of cool stuff there for you to check out as well. I will be working with Mr. Gupta in the coming few weeks ahead. Lots of interesting things to come, so stay tuned for that. Give him a subscription on his channel. There is a link in the description below as well. So thanks for watching. Probably no video tomorrow. I will have a global weather and climate report on Sunday, so stay tuned for that as well. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.